Hi everyone, today I want to talk about a telescope that has become my personal favorite for astrophotography over the past year, the Artec 250 Newtonian telescope. If you've been following my channel or social media, you've probably seen it already. It often shows up in the background of my videos simply because I just tend to use it a lot. Whenever the sky is clear, this is most likely the telescope or one of the telescopes I'm imaging with. I've also shared many images captured with it. Because of that, I received a lot of questions, both in comments as well as in private messages about the telescope itself. Now that I've had it for a full year, I thought it was time to make a proper video to introduce this telescope, explain why I chose it, why I keep using it, and hopefully answer all of those questions that you may have about it. My name is Lutza and you're watching the Space Koala. Like many astrophotographers, I have a little bit of an aperture fever. I've said many times that my philosophy is simple: the larger the physical aperture, the more light you collect and the better your images will be. That's why for several years, actually, my most used telescope was the Celestron C11 Edge HD. It is an 11-inch scope that is still compact enough to carry around. It works well on relatively small mounts and produces great images. I can also pair it with a full-frame camera, which means I'm truly collecting a huge amount of light. On the other hand, I do love reflectors as well, and that's why I bought the Ascar 185, which you may have noticed sitting in the background of some of my videos, usually in my living room. And there is a reason for that. It is simply too inconvenient to use for me. It is a beautiful telescope, but it's just too long. Using it is awkward. It touches the tripod. It's near impossible to use visually near the zenith, and I'm saddened by the realization that I'm just not using it for the nebula shots that I had intended it for. The obvious solution for my requirements of a larger aperture and a wider field of view is a Newtonian. I already owned a small, fast one, the Sharpstar HNT 150 f2.8. Unfortunately, it hasn't been very stable. It tends to lose collimation, sometimes just between uses, and if you're unlucky like me, even during a meridian flip, or if I just look at it wrong. And let me tell you, discovering your collimation is ruined at 2 a.m. is a horrible experience. So I needed something that met all of my needs, still light enough to carry around with a large aperture and a wide-ish field of view, and mechanically and optically stable. My choice ended up being the Artec line by Artesky, and specifically the Artec 250. They produce multiple variations of this telescope, and I know that they periodically update the line with slight changes in the specs. The version I have is very close to a classical 250-1000 Newtonian, so this is the one that I can and will speak about in detail. The primary is a 250mm, so 10-inch f3.5 mirror held in place by a retaining ring. There are no visible mirror clips. The telescope comes with a coma corrector included, which is very similar to the Teleview Paracore big type corrector in that it has a focal extending factor, bringing the total length to around 980mm. So at the end, the full system is approximately an f3.9. The secondary mirror is 114mm and is held in place on a sturdy single piece of CNC machined spider. It directs starlight into the 3-inch Pegasus Astro Prodigy focuser, which is also included with the telescope. You might not even recognize it at first glance because it has been custom colored to match the look of the tube. The combination of the large corrector, the 3-inch focuser, and the 114mm secondary mirror means that I get sharp stars in the corners of a full-frame sensor on my images. I realize this might not matter to everyone, but for me this was non-negotiable. If I'm looking for a wider field of view for a nebula, I want to mount a full-frame camera and not throw away any of the light collected. In addition to the optical qualities mentioned, the other main reason for my choice was this telescope's mechanical stability. I already mentioned the sturdy secondary holder, but the primary is also held just as securely. We don't really see that in detail here because it is enclosed by a cover to block straight light. The back cover also includes a cooling fan, which helps speed up cooling times when taking the telescope outside in the winter. Now, why do I care so much about mechanical stability? That is because I just don't enjoy dealing with collimation issues like those I had faced with my other Newtonian telescope. Of course, collimating your scope before each use is very doable and many people do it, but it just adds an extra step to the setup every single time that I'd rather avoid. Life is simply easier when you don't have to recollimate constantly, much like when I'm using my refractors. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that I've been using this Newtonian almost as if it were a refractor. Let me explain what I mean by that. When I first got the telescope, I checked the collimation every single time I mounted it. For the first few months, I was convinced it would eventually drift, but I quickly realized that I never had to touch it up. So in fact, I think I've only recollimated it once or twice since the very beginning. So at some point, I just stopped worrying about it. My thought process is simple. If it ever goes out of alignment, I'll just see it on the stars of my subs of the night, and then I just fix it then. And let me tell you, it makes life so much easier, especially when I'm setting up in the dark and the cold and I don't want to waste extra time fine-tuning collimation. This brings me to one of my biggest pet peeves with many Newtonians on the market. A large majority of off-the-shelf Newtonians use designs where the corrector is held in the focuser by screws or by some other kind of pressure mechanism. To me, there's just no way you can guarantee that the corrector is perfectly centered on the optical axis if it's only being held in by sideways pressure. That's why it was important to me that everything here is fixed by threaded connections. The corrector is threaded onto the focuser, and then the camera is threaded onto the corrector. The drawback, of course, is you cannot freely rotate the corrector with the camera anymore. Theoretically, you could add a separate rotator, but in practice, you don't really need to, because the way you attach the camera on this Newtonian is very similar to how it works on a Schmidt-Cassegrain. There's a retaining ring. You can just loosen it slightly, rotate the camera into the angle you want, and then tighten it again. It's simple and it solves both problems. So I mentioned earlier that the telescope comes with a Pegasus Astro Prodigy focuser, but you may have noticed that I actually have a ZWO ASI Air Plus connected to it. So how does that work? By default, the telescope ships with the regular Prodigy focuser, but for about, I think, a €200 upgrade, you can choose to have it modified so that it behaves just like a regular rack and pinion focuser with a ZWO EAF attached would. This way you can use it seamlessly with the ASI Air. Of course, you can still run it through Nina or any other software you prefer. They call this modified focuser version of the Artec the Easy line. For me, it is the best of both worlds. You get the Prodigy's mechanical stability, but you also get the convenience of controlling it through a lightweight system like the ASI Air. I've been very happy with this focuser. The V-curve in the autofocus routine looks perfectly clean, and it feels like there's no backlash at all. The whole process is very repeatable and reliable. If you're using Nina or similar software, you can even rely on focuser offsets for your different filters without any issues. Of course, with all the nice things I've said about the reliability and stability of the system, there just has to be a downside, and there is. And it is the weight. All of that rigidity and robustness comes at a cost. This telescope is definitely heavier than a typical off-the-shelf 250mm or 10-inch Newtonian. As it is, with the corrector, the focuser, everything attached without the camera, it weighs around 18 kilograms. That means you'll likely need a stronger mount than you would for something like a Skywatcher 250 Newtonian. Because I am all about convenience and ease of use, I only use harmonic mounts. I've used this telescope on two different ones, the Rainbow Astro RSD 300 that I have underneath it right now, and I've also used it a few times with the Warp Astron WD 20. In practice, it would work fine with any harmonic mount that uses at least a 20 class strain wave motor. If you're using a traditional German equatorial mount, you just need to check the declared weight limits carefully. I personally believe that if you want a stress-free and reliable use, you're looking at something in the EQ8 class or above. As for transportation, it hasn't been a problem at all. The telescope isn't particularly long, and with its carrying case, it fits easily in the back of my car. I think it would fit in almost any car. And for me, this is about the largest scope that I can mount by myself without help or special tricks. The only other downside I can think of is its sensitivity to back focus. This, of course, will be a property of any such telescope, but naturally this is something that I'm very sensitive to as I use larger sensors. For full correction, a precise back focus distance and no tilt is an absolute must. And there goes the sun for the day. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, the price. This scope is currently listed at 6,800 euros. That is obviously more than many mass market Newtonians of similar size. Part of that reason is likely that it is all made in Europe, including the optics, but even if I just focus on the pure specs and do the calculations, I anyway end up with a very similar price, either by adding modifications to a cheaper off-the-shelf scope or by ordering a custom one with the parts already included. I, of course, looked at what else there was on the market, and here's how they looked for my specific use, keeping in mind my must-haves I already mentioned. I looked at the Lacerda Carbon Photonewton, for example, from the Austrian company Lacerda. It is about half the price. They do declare that some parts are sourced from the Far East, likely the mirrors, which explains a lot of the difference. But more importantly, though, at least for me, the 2-inch rack and pinion focuser would limit the use of my full-frame camera. On top of that, things like a proper primary mirror cover, cooling fans, and even the chroma corrector also have to be added separately. Another option is the ONTC line from TS Optics, but the specs are almost identical to the Lacerda one, so it wasn't really an option for me. On the higher end side, there is the Orion Optics AG10 Astrograph. It does tick a lot of the boxes, and it does come with a wide range of upgrade options. However, once I start adding those, the price climbs well above that of the Artec. So while the Artec is definitely not a budget scope, it includes a lot by default: the nice focuser, the large corrector, the carbon tube, the cooling, the tube rings, and the 2 Losmandy type dovetails. After adding what I'd need to each of the alternative scopes I looked at, the Artec ended up in the same price range for me, with fewer changes out of the box. So why has this telescope taken over as my current favorite, even compared to my Edge HD11? The simple reason is that it's better suited for larger fields of view like nebulae. In addition to the field of view, I find that the images have more contrast, and of course the stars are infinitely more beautiful. That doesn't mean that I've stopped using my C11. In fact, during May and June, when the nights are painfully short, I often ran both telescopes together. I matched 2 different sensors on them, and then I pointed both scopes at the same target. This was the only way to gather enough integration time during those short nights. And it worked really well. I got the extra data from the C11, but I also got the colorful spiky stars that Newtonians like the Artec are known for. It was really the best of both worlds. And now, who is this telescope really for? While I rave about its ease of use and the fact that it is actually reasonably priced, let's be realistic, this is not going to be your first ever telescope when you start astrophotography. An 18-kilogram huge scope is also not something you'll want to use when you're still learning the ropes. It is a serious instrument designed for people who are already active in the hobby and are looking for a higher-end Newtonian that combines the advantages of aperture with an ease of use that feels closer to a refractor. Since I got mine last August, I know the company has made upgrades to certain parts of the design, and the Artec line itself is available in multiple versions, the 200mm, the 250mm, and the 300mm, so that is roughly 8, 10, and 12 inches. While I do not think there are any stability issues with mine whatsoever, apparently the primary mirror cell has been upgraded on the more recent versions. It now houses a conical mirror, and it is supposed to hold collimation even better now. In addition, the native mirror now comes in at f4, so you can then use this corrector here, which brings you to a more zoomed in view at f4.5, and I've heard that they will soon add the choice to get it with a different corrector, which results in a faster f3.4 design in a shorter tube. For me, the 250mm version is by far the best choice. It balances aperture, field of view, and portability in a way that works perfectly for my imaging style. That said, I have considered the 200mm version as a more portable option, something I could put on a smaller mount for travel. And if I should ever have the opportunity to set up a permanent observatory, I would get the 300 in a heartbeat. But in my current situation, that's simply too big. I wouldn't be able to move it around. And now, I'm aware this telescope isn't very well known worldwide. In Italy, of course, it's popular since it's manufactured there. I know it's available in some other European countries as well, but internationally, it's not always easy to find. I'll leave a few resources below if you want to read the specs. Overall, I think it's quite clear that I'm happy with this telescope. There's a reason I keep using it for my own astrophotography. Throughout this video, I've shown you images taken with it, but you can also visit my website or my AstroBeam profile to see more examples for yourself. I hope I managed to answer the main questions you may have had about it. If there's anything that I didn't cover, please let me know in the comments. As you can see, I already set it up for another night of imaging here in the Swiss Alps, continuing a mega project I've been working on for over 2 months now. Eventually, I hope it will be finished, and I can't wait to share it with all of you. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this and haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. And as always, I wish you clear skies.